Have you ever stopped to think why you know exactly what to do, but still don't do it? You know you should wake up early. You know you should train, focus, study, build something meaningful, and yet you don't. Not because you're stupid, not because you're lazy, but because something inside you resists. And the truth is, this resistance is not random, it's engineered. Look around you. Food, delivered in seconds. Entertainment, one tap away. Validation, instant. Scroll, click, consume, repeat. Modern life has removed friction, and in doing so, it has removed your strength. An ancient samurai once lived in a world with none of this. No comfort, no shortcuts, no escape. His name was Miyamoto Musashi. 61 duels, 61 victories, never defeated. Not because he was stronger, but because he understood something terrifying. The real battle is not out there. It's inside your mind, between what is easy and what is necessary, between who you are and who you could become. Now here's the paradox. We live in the most advanced era in human history, yet anxiety is rising, focus is collapsing, discipline is disappearing. A study from Harvard found that the human mind wanders nearly 47% of the time. Almost half your life, you are not present. Stanford researchers discovered that constant dopamine stimulation from social media, fast content, instant rewards, literally weakens your ability to focus and follow through. So no, you're not broken, but you are being trained every day into distraction, into comfort, into weakness. The truth is, the problem has never been knowledge. It has always been execution, and you are not alone in this. But there is a system older than modern society, stronger than motivation, and completely indifferent to your emotions. A system built by warriors. In this video, I'm going to tell you the story of a young man named Jack, 25 years old, lost, overweight, working a job he hated, trapped in a cycle he couldn't escape, until one encounter changed everything. And through that encounter, he discovered a set of ancient disciplines, principles that turned ordinary men into unbreakable warriors. This is not motivation. This is structure. After this video, you will never look at your daily habits the same way again. I will show you exactly how this system works and how it transforms identity from the inside out. But understand this. This path is not for everyone. Most people will hear this, feel inspired, and go back to their old lives within 3 days. If you want to be different, you have to act differently. Welcome to a place where we rebuild discipline through ancient wisdom, where comfort is questioned and strength is forged. If you truly want to master your mind, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. And more importantly, comment below, where are you still losing control? Because the moment you say it out loud is the moment you stop hiding from it. Now, let me show you how a lost waiter became a warrior. Chapter 1. The Lost Waiter. In today's video, I'm going to tell you the story of a young man who knew exactly what he needed to do and still couldn't do it. His name was Jack, 25 years old, living in Seattle, working as a waiter in a small Italian restaurant buried between glass buildings and busy streets. If you looked at him, you wouldn't notice anything special. Average height, a bit overweight, tired eyes, just another guy blending into the noise of modern life. But what you couldn't see was the war happening inside him. Every morning, Jack woke up late, not because he had to, but because he couldn't get himself out of bed. The alarm would ring, he would open his eyes, and then negotiation. Just 5 more minutes. I slept late. I'll start tomorrow. And just like that, the first battle of the day was lost. He rushed to work, served tables, smiled at customers he didn't care about, came home exhausted. Not physically, but mentally drained. And then the cycle continued. Food, phone, games, videos, 2 a.m., sleep, repeat. Every day felt the same, not painful enough to force change, but empty enough to feel it. And that's the trap. Because Jack wasn't unaware. He knew. He knew he needed to lose weight. He knew he should exercise. He knew he should learn new skills. maybe programming, maybe something that could get him out of that restaurant. He knew all of it, but he didn't act. The truth is, the problem was never time. It was never knowledge. It was discipline. And deep down, Jack knew that too. But knowing the truth and acting on it are two completely different things. So he stayed stuck, watching his friends move forward. One got a corporate job. Another started a business. Another moved to a new city. And Jack, he stayed. Same job, same habits, same excuses. Day after day, he lived on autopilot. And the worst part, he hated it. Silently. Because there's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from work. It comes from becoming someone you know you're not supposed to be. And Jack felt that every single night. Until one evening, something changed. Jack didn't break in one moment. He collapsed. Slowly. Quietly. Almost invisibly. At first it didn't look like failure. It looked like comfort. Late mornings, easy shifts, fast food after work, endless scrolling at night, nothing extreme, nothing dramatic. And that's exactly why it was dangerous. Because the truth is, destruction doesn't always feel like pain. Sometimes, it feels like ease. Jack told himself he was just taking a break. That life would start. Later. But later kept moving. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into years. And without realizing it, he was drifting further away from the man he once thought he would become. His body changed first. More weight, less energy, heavy steps, slower reactions. But the real damage was happening inside. Every time he said, "I'll do it tomorrow," and didn't, he lost something. Not motivation, not time, respect for himself. And when a man loses self-respect, everything else follows. His confidence dropped. His focus disappeared. His standards collapsed. He stopped trying. Not because he couldn't, but because failing repeatedly made trying feel pointless. And so, he chose distraction instead. Games, videos, noise, anything to avoid facing the truth. That he was stuck. Completely stuck. The truth is, Jack wasn't lazy. He was trapped in a loop of comfort that slowly turned into a prison. Wake up late, rush to work, come home tired, escape reality, sleep, repeat. No growth, no progress, no direction, just motion, without movement. And the most dangerous part, from the outside, his life looked normal, but inside, he was collapsing, silently, and he knew it. That's what made it unbearable, because deep down, he could see the gap between who he was and who he could be. And every day he did nothing. That gap grew wider, until one night, something disrupted the cycle. Chapter 2. The Encounter. That night felt like every other night. Quiet, slow, forgettable. The restaurant was almost empty. A few tables, low noise, nothing unusual. Jack was wiping down a table, moving on autopilot. Then the door opened, and something shifted. A man walked in, mid-30s, clean suit, calm presence. Not loud, not flashy, but controlled. The kind of presence you don't question, you notice. He sat alone in the corner. Jack approached him like any other customer. "Good evening, sir. What would you like? Black coffee. No sugar." Simple, direct, no hesitation. Jack walked away, but something stayed in his mind. When he came back with the coffee, he did what he always did. He talked. "First time here?" The man nodded slightly. "Just passing through." There was a pause. Jack should have left, but he didn't. Something pulled him. "What do you do?" "I run a software company." Jack felt it instantly. That quiet punch. Comparison, envy, curiosity. Must be a good life. The man looked at him, not judging, observing. "It's a disciplined life." Jack smirked. "Discipline, that's it." The man leaned forward slightly. "That's everything." Silence. Then he added, "Most people don't fail because they lack opportunity. They fail because they can't control themselves." That hit hard. Jack didn't respond, because he couldn't. It felt too accurate. The man studied him for a moment. "You look like someone who wants more, but isn't doing what it takes." Jack froze. How could a stranger see that? "My name is Naoki." "Jack." They shook hands. Firm, grounded. "Do you want to know what changed my life?" Jack nodded, slowly. "I learned a system. Old, proven, unforgiving." Naoki took a sip of his coffee. "It comes from the samurai." Jack leaned in. For the first time in a long time, he was fully present. Men who removed emotion from action. Men who trained when they didn't want to. Men who built discipline as identity. Jack felt something unfamiliar. Not motivation, not excitement, something deeper. Clarity, as if, for the first time, he wasn't being entertained. He was being confronted. And deep down he knew this conversation was not random. It was a turning point. Chapter 3. The First Principle. Kaizen Naoki didn't start with intensity. He started with something almost invisible. "Kaizen," he said. Jack frowned. "What does that mean?" Naoki looked at him calmly. "Small improvement. Every day." Jack expected something more. Dramatic. A strict routine. A brutal system. Something extreme. But this, it felt, too simple. And that's why most people ignore it. "The problem," Naoki continued, "is that you think change has to be big." Jack stayed silent. "Go to the gym for 2 hours. Wake up at 5 a.m. every day. Change your entire life overnight." He shook his head. "That's why you fail. Because when you go too hard, you burn out. When you demand too much, you collapse. And when you collapse, you go back to who you were. The truth is, you don't rise through intensity. You rise through consistency." Naoki leaned forward. "Kaizen is not about doing more. It's about doing something every single day. No excuses. No negotiation, even if it's small, especially if it's small. One push-up becomes 5, becomes 20. 10 minutes of study becomes a skill. Waking up 10 minutes earlier becomes control." Jack listened, this time differently, because for the first time it felt possible. "You don't need motivation for Kaizen," Naoki said. "You need obedience. Obedience to the system, not your feelings, not your mood, not your excuses." And then he said something Jack would never forget. "You are not building habits. You are building identity. Every small action is a vote for the man you are becoming. Skip once, you stay the same. Repeat daily, you transform. Slowly, quietly, permanently." Jack realized something in that moment. He had been trying to change his life with explosions, when what he needed was precision. Kaizen wasn't weak. It was controlled, and control is power. Chapter 4. The Trial. Jack didn't transform overnight. He started. And then he struggled. The first morning, 5:00 a.m., the alarm rang. And instantly, the voice returned. "Stay in bed. You're tired. Start tomorrow." The same voice that had controlled him for years. For a moment, he almost obeyed. But then Kaizen. Not perfection, just action. He sat up, slow, heavy, uncertain. But he moved. That day he didn't run far, didn't train hard, didn't feel strong, but he showed up. And that was new. Day 2, harder. Day 3, worse. His body hurt. His mind resisted. Everything inside him wanted to quit. And then he failed. One night, he went back. Games. Scrolling. 2 a.m. The old pattern, the old identity. The next morning he missed it. No 5 a.m., no run, no discipline, just silence and guilt. This was the moment where most people stop. This doesn't work. I knew it. I'm not that guy. But Kaizen says something different. You don't need to be perfect. You need to return. So Jack did something rare. He didn't restart next week. He didn't wait for Monday. He continued. The same day, one small action, a walk, a clean meal, 10 minutes of focus. Nothing impressive. But it broke the relapse. And that's the difference. Failure didn't destroy him, because the system held him. Day by day he kept going, sometimes strong, sometimes weak, but always returning. He began to understand something deeper. Discipline isn't about never falling. It's about how fast you get back up. His runs became longer. His focus became sharper. The resistance didn't disappear, but it lost control. Because every time he acted despite it, he weakened it and strengthened himself. Slowly, quietly, the identity shifted, not through motivation, but through repetition. Jack was no longer trying to be disciplined. He was becoming someone who doesn't quit. And once that begins, everything changes. Chapter 5. The Science of Discipline. What Jack was experiencing was not just effort, it was rewiring. Every time he woke up at 5 a.m. and ignored the voice, telling him to stop, that voice had a source, the amygdala, the part of your brain designed to keep you safe, not successful. Safe, it fears discomfort, pain, uncertainty. So when Jack tried to change it, pushed back. Hard. Go back to what's easy. Stay where it's familiar. That wasn't weakness. That was biology. But there was another system at play. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for decisions, control, long-term thinking. Every time Jack acted despite resistance, he strengthened it, like a muscle, and something even deeper was happening. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on repeated action. Old habits, late nights, distractions, avoidance were neural pathways, worn, automatic. But every time Jack chose differently, he carved a new path. Not instantly, but consistently. And here's the truth. The brain doesn't care what you intend. It adapts to what you repeat. That's why motivation fails, because motivation is temporary, but repetition is biological. Jack wasn't just building discipline, he was rebuilding his brain, one action at a time, until the hard path became the default. Conclusion. The path you choose. Jack's story is not special. That's the uncomfortable truth. He wasn't more talented. He wasn't more motivated. He didn't have better conditions. He simply did what most people refuse to do, consistently. Now let's strip everything down. No story, no emotion, just the system. Wake up without negotiation. No snooze, no excuses. Move without emotion. You act, whether you feel like it or not. Train when you don't want to, because that is where strength is built. Eliminate the unnecessary. Less noise, more focus. Sit with the pain. Don't escape it. Learn from it. Protect your focus like a fortress, because attention is your life. Live without needing approval. No validation. Only standards. And finally, stay the course. When it gets hard, you stay. When it gets boring, you stay. When everything in you wants to quit, you stay. That's it. Simple, but not easy. Now, here's where everything changes. Because this is the moment most people go back to being passive. They watch, they agree, they feel inspired, and then they do nothing. Don't be that person. Turn this into action. Here's your challenge. 14 days. Not 30. Not someday. 14 days. Pick one rule from this system. Just one. And follow it. Every single day. No negotiation. If it's waking up early, you wake up. If it's training, you train. If it's focus, you remove distractions. Miss a day, you don't quit. You return. Immediately. Because this is not about perfection. It's about identity. You are not someone who tries. You are someone who does. And after 14 days, you will see something. Not massive results, but something more dangerous. Proof. Proof that you can control yourself. And once you have that, everything changes. So let me ask you, are you going to continue living on autopilot, watching your life pass by? Or are you finally going to take control and become the person you already know you should be? Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait until life forces you, because by then, it might be too late. Start today, right now. Thank you for watching until the end of this video. If this message hit you, subscribe to the channel and write in the comments, What is the one discipline you will commit to? Starting today, say it publicly, make it real. And if you're ready to go deeper, watch the next video on your screen. Jack didn't break in one moment. He collapsed, slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. At first it didn't look like failure. It looked like comfort. Late mornings, easy shifts, fast food after work, endless scrolling at night. Nothing extreme, nothing dramatic. And that's exactly why it was dangerous. Because the truth is, destruction doesn't always feel like pain. Sometimes it feels like ease. Jack told himself he was just taking a break. That life would start later. But later kept moving. Days turned into weeks, weeks into years, and without realizing it, he was drifting further away from the man he once thought he would become. His body changed first. More weight, less energy, heavy steps, slower reactions. But the real damage was happening inside. Every time he said, "I'll do it tomorrow," and didn't, he lost something. Not motivation, not time, respect for himself. And when a man loses self-respect, everything else follows. His confidence dropped, his focus disappeared, his standards collapsed. He stopped trying, not because he couldn't, but because failing repeatedly made trying feel pointless. And so he chose distraction instead. Games, videos, noise, anything to avoid facing the truth. That he was stuck, completely stuck. The truth is, Jack wasn't lazy. He was trapped in a loop of comfort, that slowly turned into a prison. Wake up late, rush to work, come home tired, escape reality, sleep, repeat. No growth, no progress, no direction, just motion without movement. And the most dangerous part, from the outside, his life looked normal, but inside, he was collapsing, silently, and he knew it. That's what made it unbearable, because deep down, he could see the gap between who he was and who he could be. And every day he did nothing, that gap grew wider, until one night, something disrupted the cycle.